Goeienaand, good evening fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And this is a bit of a reflective video, okay? It's my memories and other people's memories about Durban. Remember Durban before it became totally infiltrated? And I've got some images at the end of this video will kind of explain what I'm talking about. But when I think back on South Africa back in the 1960s, 1970s, you really can't go beyond Jeremy Taylor. Remember that classic comedian singer, Jeremy Taylor, and that song, Pleez, Deddy. Oh my gosh, I still sing that today. I mean, that really summed up South Africa back at that stage of life. I put up a video just now with de Klerk talking about not regretting what happened to South Africa in 1994. What an arsehole. Now, getting back to Jeremy Taylor. Please, Daddy, won't you take us to the drive-in? All 6, 7 of us, 8, 9, 10. That is such a classic song. If you want to actually relive it, just on YouTube, just type in Pleez, but Pleez, and then Deddy. I think it's Deddy, but it is a classic song. Why are we talking about this? Well, Fiona sent me a very interesting statement about Durban. Now, before I read her statement, let me tell you about my memories of Durban. I remember Durban when the amusement park was on the beach. And my most favorite thing, my first real girlfriend, my first true love, her name was Moira. And she was about 17 or 18, and I was about 18, 19. And I used to drive down from Greytown to Durban. And, we'd go to the beach and we'd sort of go into this amusement park, and you got these little tokens, I still got them. And you'd put them in these machines and you'd do all sorts of things like games and all sorts of stuff. It was wonderful. It was like so much fun. And then during the day, you go onto that beach, that Durban beach, and there'd be all that sand and the surf, and everything was so clean. It was just so beautiful. And as I said, there are going to be photos that'll follow just now that'll reflect how it used to be. And one of my fondest memories was this is the crazy side of me. Moira and I went to the local, it was like a McDonald's where you could get sort of fast food, and their service at times was absolutely shocking, and on this particular day it was worse than shocking, and I was really pissed off. You know what I mean? I was hurtful. I was so hurtful. And they had these mustard containers. Remember the yellow plastic container? You go put some mustard on your food, and they had the tomato sauce one, which was in red. You go put some tomato sauce in your food, and then they had obviously salt, and they had straws and stuff like that, so you could drink the Coke and whatever. This was all on the table, and I was getting really pissed off because we'd been there about 10 minutes and we're still waiting for our food. And so I took off the lid of the tomato sauce container, took off the lid of the mustard container, and I got the mustard and I poured a whole bunch of it into the tomato sauce container. Put the lids back on. And we had our meal and went out, and I always wondered what happened when the next mob came and sat down there with the tomato sauce. What? Yeah, I had a mean streak. Get over it. Those were the days. I mean, really, those were the days. Wow. Now, let's get back to what Fiona sent me. She says, wow, huge, as we always called him. What extraordinary photos. I was too young to remember much about the details of the 50s pictures. This is of Durban. And I'm going to show you these pictures in a second. But Dad used to talk about going to watch the Catalinas land in the bay when we were staying at Monol Tree. Then yet another daughter was due to be born. Dad took no chances and had Mum installed at Monol Tree for about a month before her due date, just in case he had to rush her from New Forest to the nearest hospital, or Pietermaritzburg, if she went into labour early. I do recall spending time there when we were very young with our Zulu nannies, and Betty Brown would have been in residence in those days, unless it was Aunt Maisie. I've described a bit of that part of our lives in my book. Those lovely old cars must have been like the models Dad had in those days, but they look too old-fashioned for me. I've got a book in which there's a photo of Durban City Hall and gardens taken in 1930 with cars parked in the street nearby. The cars in that 30s photo look more like the old ones below, so the beachfront photos could possibly be even older. Okay, let me show you those photos and then we'll continue with the story about Durban. The Durban Aerodrome was just beyond Natal Command Headquarters, and so were the polo grounds. Then the country club further along. When Dad was playing in Durban, we used to exercise the ponies, galloping them in the soft sand of the country club beach, and swim them in the sea, to cool the ponies off afterwards. Some of them loved the experience, others not so much. I see the veggie seller is a white man, but I remember the veggie Sammies as all being Indians, and they'd roamed the suburbs as well, right up until well into the 90s. Dine, my sister Diana, had wonderful accounts of Vervets raising the Sammy's bucky full of fruit and veg while he was at her door conducting a transaction. They were still living in Durban North then. The 1960s and 70s photos are very familiar too, and I've described the Cuban, or was it Mexican, hat, where we could have a drive-in with milkshakes, hot dogs and burgers with chips, all served in a tray by Indian waiters who attached a tray to the open car window using a specially designed contraption. Would hoot and they'd come running to take our orders. Somehow the pie and curry gravy didn't have so much appeal to me. Hugh. My boys used to sit in the gutter at daybreak outside a nightclub in Points Road. The name escapes me. In the late 80s, scoffing down bunny chow, though. Okay, let's have a look at those photos of Durban, shall we? The kiddies' piddling pool with those slides, as well as the influx of Valis every season, was fun too. I recall riding in those little boats and then taking my two boys to do the same thing about 20 years later. Then there were the surfers, when that craze started, and guys like James Madison, you and all your mates, as well as all the other really cool guys who had your first battered, rusty old cars, complete with roof racks for the surfboards. Oh boy, how we girls adored you surfers. Something I never did was surfing. I used to just do body surfing. I wasn't going to get on a board and go head first into the sand. Anyway, then there were the vendors, the umuntu, who trudged through the hot sand, ringing their bells with a cool box full of dry ice slung around their necks on a leather strap. Oh, I remember that. They sold Eskimo pies. Oh, wow. I loved the Eskimo pies. Do you remember that? For those old farts like me, okay, who are watching this. The Eskimo pie was like a regular ice cream on a stick. You know, it was just like vanilla ice cream, but it was covered in this layer of chocolate that just crackled in your mouth as you bit into it. It was just, the best. It was absolutely the best. They sold Eskimo pies, ice cream sandwiches, I remember those too, and little cardboard tubs of ice cream with tiny flat wooden spoons to eat it with. I remember those too. Also those peanuts, popcorn and toffee apple vendors who became immortalized. Jeremy Taylor in Ach, Pleez, Deddy. Remember the surfers rising and falling on the swell beyond the breakers at South and Addington beaches, waiting for that perfect wave. And the shark nets they eventually installed after the Advali got chomped every season or so. The rickshaws were great too, parked there in their ranks and touting loudly for business in Zulu. I remember the rickshaws. Oh my gosh, I went on quite a few rickshaw rides. And what they used to do, for those who don't know, a rickshaw is basically like a glorified trailer where you've just got the Zulu who's dressed up in this most exotic shit. But when he actually runs down the road, I mean, the way they ran was quite incredible to watch. It was like poetry in motion. But from time to time, they'd jump up and you would go way back in this, like this trailer type thing. But it was incredible fun. And they would take you around Durban. It was just absolutely beautiful. These are the good old days. We could barely step along the pavement for hordes of rather aggressive Zulu women selling beadwork and other artifacts, but mostly plastic tat, like hand mirrors and pink or orange plastic and other such rubbish. They harangued us relentlessly every step of the way, and if he did not stop to admire a bead bracelet, was immediately set upon by a rival vendor, shrieking at him, clamouring and demanding that he buy their wares instead. That's exactly how it was. There were some women selling fruit too, little pyramids of overripe, sometimes rotting mangoes, pineapples and bananas, all complete with its own cloud of fruit and other flies, either hovering or feasting on the produce. One had to be so careful as not to actually slip and fall on banana peels or mango skins which lay everywhere, along with all the other litter. When I asked one of the women in Zulu where she lived, she gesticulated behind her and replied, "Here." At night they simply covered up their stock and themselves with plastic sheets and slept where they were, on the pavement. They used the beach as their toilette. I suggested that Alan didn't go anywhere near the beachfront public loos. We couldn't get near the aquarium for the sea of pavement vendors, and saw no other white people at all during the short time we spent there. Alan looking for curios to take home with him. When we got home to dine with all with whom we were staying, she was horrified to hear we'd even been to the beachfront. It's not like it used to be. There's so much crime now with muggings and pickpockets, as well as having your car either stolen or broken into. It's just not safe any longer, she told us. So it's all gone now. The only thing we have left is those photos you've sent. So sad. And now I'm going to show you some photos of Durban Beach today. Talk about transformation. Hippo Eyes, Ramaphosa, look how you have transformed what was once a wonderful tourist spot. Here come the photos. Alright guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe. Bye for now.